Resogun. Resogun is an awesome 2D side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game on the PlayStation 4. It was developed by HouseMarque Games. Now, HouseMarque Games might not be a household name if you're used to like big-budget games, but if you've been following the downloadable kind of indie game scene in the last generation, you've probably at least heard of them. They did Super Stardust HD on the PlayStation 3. They also did a game called Outland, which is one of my favorite platformers of last generation. Unfortunately, a very overlooked game, but Resogun is definitely their best game to date. First of all, let's talk about the presentation of this game. Holy crap. No matter how you look at it, this game looks awesome. For the game's graphics, they used what are called voxels, which are basically these tiny little cubes, and every object in the game is made up of a bunch of these little cubes. Everything from the stages to the player ship to all the enemy ships are made with these voxels. And what's cool about this is that every time that you blow up a ship, there's like a big explosion of these cubes everywhere, and it just looks fantastic. When the game gets really hectic and crazy and you're shooting down a bunch of enemies, these voxels are just blowing up everywhere and it just looks fantastic. It's like a big fireworks show. It's awesome. And the game never slows down because of it. If you have a nice home theater speaker system or even just headphones that you can plug into your TV, absolutely crank the volume on this game. This is a game that's meant to be played with the sound way up. It's got that awesome techno music. It's like so epic and all the explosions going on everywhere. It's just, from a presentation standpoint, I really enjoyed it in case you can't tell. Now graphically, Resogun reminds me of a game that came out on the PlayStation 3 a few years ago called 3D Game Heroes. And that game was really cool. It was basically like an old school homage to like 8-bit, 16-bit Zelda games and Dragon Warrior games from back in the day. The graphics in 3D Game Heroes used voxels just like Resogun does. So when you kill an enemy, you get that nice explosion of voxels, and that was awesome back then, and it's awesome now in Resogun. So at first, Resogun might seem similar to many other shooters in that you're basically just shooting down enemies all the time. But actually, the main objective of each level is to save the last humans.
Save the last humans.
That's right, I forgot to mention that Resogun utilizes the Dualshock 4's built-in speaker, which is pretty cool. I like it. The humans in this game are like little tiny green stick figures that are walking around the level. And as you're shooting down the ships in each level, you have to fly down and pick up the human and then bring him to the top of the screen where he can be rescued. And when you do this, the game rewards you with points, with shields, with extra bombs that you can use against enemies. When you play this game on the easy difficulty, which is called Rookie, you're probably not going to need to save humans that much because the game doesn't really throw that much at you. But when you play this game on the experience difficulty or any ones higher than that, you're going to need to save every last human that you can. And the reason for this is because on the easy difficulty, the enemies move a lot slower and they are so much more manageable by yourself. But when you get to the other difficulties, they are swarming you so much faster that you need every single power-up you can get, which means that you need to be able to save every single human that you can, which on the higher difficulties is easier said than done. When I first played this game, I was like, save the humans? Okay, why do I need to do that? Can't I just kill all the enemies and then be done with the level? No. When you start a level, every human is in a locked cage, and the way that you release a human from the cage is that you kill a certain type of enemy. When you play this game, you will hear a voice that says, "Keepers detected," and right then, a group of enemies will spawn that have a big green glow around them, and once you kill this group of enemies, one of the humans will be released from its cage. And thankfully, the enemies can't actually shoot and kill the humans like you think they'd be able to. If you take too long to get the humans from the ground, there is a UFO that will fly over the human and attempt to capture it. You do not want that to happen. Also, when you're firing your gun, you can actually hit the human. It won't kill him, but it'll hit the human and it'll like bounce him around a little bit. And if the level that you're playing has a body of water or a cliff, you can easily accidentally shoot him and knock him off and basically accidentally kill him. You also don't want to do that. Now, when you first play Resogun, when you're getting used to the controls and things like that, you're probably not even going to notice when the humans are even on the map. But after a while, you'll keep hearing the voice that says, "Human lost." And you'll be like, okay. But then there's just that awesome moment where the game just clicks and you suddenly become very aware of any time a human is running around. So Resogun has 3 default ships that you can choose from: the Nemesis, the Ferox, and the Phobos. The Nemesis is the fastest one of the 3. Now, once you start upgrading his weapon throughout a level, the lasers will start to home in on enemies, which is really nice. But unfortunately, they don't do enough damage against enemies in later levels. The Ferox is the most well-rounded ship in the game. He has medium speed, and his weapon is fairly straightforward. It's just lasers that fire left and right. And then there's Phobos, which is the bigger, slower ship. And his weapon is a laser that, when it hits enemies, it splits off into other lasers. This can be crucial for taking down big groups of enemies in the game. But it's not just the weapons and the movement speed that make each ship different from each other. There are 2 other attributes for each ship. These attributes are Overdrive and Boost. Overdrive is an attack that you build up as you play a level, and it's like this big laser that just shoots down anything in the way, and it lasts for like 5 or 10 seconds depending on which ship that you're using, and it'll just blow anything to smithereens and it'll slow down the game, which is awesome when you're feeling overwhelmed. And then there's Boost, which is pretty much what it sounds like. Boost allows you to get quickly out of a group of enemies when you're getting swarmed, which is useful all the time. Now, in the past couple of weeks, they've actually released a free update to Resogun, which gives you a ship editor. And when I say ship editor, I mean you can create a ship from scratch. You can customize the appearance to whatever you want, and you can also customize the stats and give them one of the main 3 weapons, one of Nemesis's weapons, Ferox's weapons, or Phobos's weapons. And using a customized ship that you customized for yourself is always going to be better than using one of the game's 3 default ships. And you can actually give a like to anyone that people have created before. So if you go to your ship editor and go to the online menu, it'll say which ones have the most likes. And the ships that have the most likes are things like the Star Wars X-Wing, the Star Wars TIE Fighter, Walter White from Breaking Bad is in there, the Planet Express from Futurama, and of course my favorite, Mega Man. Whoever created the Mega Man one, thank you. And it's just awesome to see what people have created on the ship editor. Resogun also has multiplayer, both online multiplayer and local multiplayer, and all multiplayer modes are pretty much what you'd expect. It's just you and another player online or locally going through a level, and you basically have an extra gun to kill all the enemies with, so it's not hugely different. It's nice to have that added gun, but it doesn't really fundamentally change the game. After you've played this game for a couple hours, you will start to realize that part of the strategy of this game is taking down specific groups of enemies while always keeping an eye out for humans that are on the map. And that one thing is what makes Resogun so cool and so special compared to a lot of other games in this genre. It's like, not only do you have to contend with all of the chaos that's around you, but you have to have this objective in mind where you have to keep an eye out constantly for humans. Now, the Resogun DLC that just came out is pretty damn cool too. It basically adds 2 extra modes, one called Survival and one called Demolition. Survival mode is pretty much what you'd expect. It's like a faster paced version of any of the main levels in the game. The humans appear more often, and so do the power-ups. Now, it might have bosses, I'm not exactly sure because I'm only able to last about 7 minutes. But there's also Demolition Mode, which is basically like Pong or tennis in Resogun fashion. In this mode, your main weapon on your ship is disabled, but you can hold down a button and release it to emit a little charge. And they're these little red things, which are basically like big explosive balls. And when you release a charge near a ball, it'll send it throughout the map. And so you'll be using your charge weapon to not only take out nearby enemies, but also knock back the ball that you knocked back earlier. And then eventually, after you've been playing for a few minutes, there's going to be like 3 or 4 of these things going around at the same time. And you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Unless you're just deathly allergic to this genre, in which case, shame on you, there's no reason to not buy Resogun. It is definitely one of the best PlayStation 4 games out right now. And it shows that this genre still has life in it. It's still fun. You can still evolve. You can still add new modes and make it really cool. The presentation is great. It's just awesome to play. It's fun to play. It's addictive. Highly recommend it. Go get it. Right now. Right now.